The human psyche inherently possesses a profound capacity for equilibrium, even amidst profound external disarray. Carl Jung, a pioneering figure in analytical psychology, posited that true internal resilience stems not from the suppression of undesirable affective states, but from their conscious regulation and integration. This involves a fundamental shift in perspective, moving beyond merely reacting to life's challenges toward an intentional cultivation of inner fortitude. Psychological stability, therefore, is not an absence of stress or adversity, but rather the sustained ability to maintain composure and clarity within conditions of uncertainty and external pressure. Jung's framework emphasizes that for an individual to achieve genuine strength, they must cultivate robustness against both external difficulties and internal psychological conflicts. This spiritual steadfastness is not solely about enduring hardship, but critically, about responding to circumstances with considered awareness, rather than being governed by impulsive emotional reflexes. When the human mind develops heightened self-awareness, it acquires the capacity to transmute adversities into opportunities for growth and profound learning, rather than perceiving them as direct personal affronts. At this pivotal juncture, we must internalize the understanding that our cognitive appraisal of events holds greater significance than the events themselves. Emotional immunity, in this context, signifies the ability to consciously sustain one's existence without succumbing to the pervasive influence of negative emotional patterns. A central tenet in Jungian thought pertinent to this discussion is the concept of the shadow. Our most vulnerable aspects frequently emerge from those facets of our personality that we consciously suppress or unconsciously deny. Attaining emotional immunity is not merely a process of managing external stimuli, but crucially, involves the acknowledgement and integration of these disowned parts of the self. Without this profound self-knowledge, an individual remains perpetually susceptible to external influences, unable to sustain genuine internal equilibrium. Thus, emotional immunity transcends mere suppression of negative emotions. It represents their conscious transformation through reflective engagement. Jung contended that authentic freedom and inner tranquility are realized when an individual progresses toward self-actualization, a state of profound psychological integration. An individual who fails to acknowledge their subconscious fears and repressed emotions is condemned to an unending cycle of reactive engagement with the external world. Conversely, a self-aware individual can leverage their emotions as instruments for navigating reality, preserving their spiritual balance irrespective of external vicissitudes. To enhance psychological resilience, one must systematically question one's automatic cognitive processes, avoid knee-jerk reactions, and evaluate events from an expansive, holistic perspective. The sole constant amidst external uncertainty is one's intrinsic inner strength and cultivated self-awareness. Self-observation, a fundamental metacognitive skill, is the capacity to critically assess one's own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as if from the vantage point of an impartial external observer. According to Jung, for an individual to truly comprehend themselves and consciously direct their life trajectory, they must first become acutely aware of their own psychic processes. The majority of individuals operate largely unconsciously, exhibiting spontaneous reactions and automated behavioral patterns driven by unexamined thoughts. True self-awareness, however, demands an introspective analysis not only of the external world but, more importantly, of one's internal landscape. The thoughts that arise in the mind are often products of past experiences, deeply ingrained unconscious archetypal patterns, and conditioned emotional reflexes. If an individual continues through life without engaging in critical self-inquiry or attempting to understand their inner world, they will remain unconsciously tethered to the dictates of their past and their subconscious programming. Therefore, self-observation constitutes a cornerstone of internal awareness within Jung's psychological process of individuation. Consciousness of unconscious elements empowers an individual to uncover deeply entrenched beliefs and emotional responses that subtly guide their life. In daily existence, people frequently react automatically to specific situations. Through self-observation, one can interrogate whether, for instance, a surge of anger genuinely originates from an external cause or if it is a manifestation of an internal unresolved conflict. This heightened awareness enables an individual to act based on conscious volition rather than being solely driven by emotional reflexes. Jung asserted that one cannot genuinely comprehend the external world without first unveiling their own internal reality, as authentic understanding emerges not only from observing external events but equally from introspecting and comprehending one's inner processes. Self-awareness necessitates the ability to evaluate both one's thoughts and emotions with the detachment of an unbiased observer. An individual must acknowledge all emotions they experience, yet refrain from identifying solely with them. For example, when experiencing fear, one should investigate its etiology, analyze the underlying reasons for the sensation, and consciously prevent this emotion from dictating their actions. Jung proposed that instead of becoming submerged in their emotions, a self-aware individual recognizes their transient nature and their informational content. This cognitive shift fosters independence from external emotional triggers. In contemporary society, many individuals navigate life unconsciously, reacting instantaneously and thoughtlessly to events. However, with the development of conscious perception, an individual begins to scrutinize the interpretations they assign to events, thereby gaining the capacity to modify debilitating thought patterns. Jung's profound understanding of the dynamic interplay between the conscious and unconscious mind serves as an invaluable guide in the practice of self-observation. Conscious comprehension encompasses not merely logical ratiocination but also intuitive depth. When an individual can attune to their inner voice and discern the messages emanating from their subconscious, they become capable of making more informed and judicious decisions in their life. The consistent practice of self-observation allows an individual to deeply understand their spiritual world, thereby enhancing their resilience to the influences of the external environment. An individual who objectively examines their thoughts and feelings, and views their experiences from a broader perspective, ceases to be a being solely dependent on external conditions. Consequently, they can direct their life with authentic awareness, rather than through the mechanism of unconscious reflexes. The ego represents the nucleus of an individual's self-perception and their relationship with the world. According to Carl Jung, the ego constitutes the conscious self and functions as a fundamental psychological structure that shapes one's apprehension of life. However, when the ego becomes an impenetrable barrier, obstructing an individual's accurate perception of themselves and their surroundings, it alienates them from both inner tranquility and authentic self-awareness. Controlling the ego does not imply its complete annihilation, rather, it entails its transformation into a healthy, integrated structure that serves consciousness. If the ego operates unchecked, dominating an individual's life, that person loses the capacity for objective evaluation of events and continuously constructs elaborate defense mechanisms against perceived external threats. This often compels the individual to perpetually justify themselves, renders them impervious to constructive criticism, and leaves them feeling vulnerable even in trivial situations. Jung suggests that true psychological maturity emerges when an individual comprehends their internal processes and consciously directs their ego. One of the ego's most significant pitfalls is the human propensity to personalize all experiences. An individual under the pervasive influence of their ego tends to interpret every situation as a personal attack or an existential threat. People frequently identify excessively with specific identities, which are often reflections of their ego. When such an identity feels imperiled, individuals can react with intense aggression. However, when an individual achieves awareness of their identification with their persona, they can recognize it as a flexible construct, capable of adaptation and change. The ego frequently enslaves individuals to their past experiences. An individual excessively attached to being right gradually forfeits mental flexibility and develops resistance to innovation and profound personal transformation. Such rigidity impedes an individual's development, trapping them in repetitive thought patterns. Jung contended that for an individual to genuinely mature, they must recognize the boundaries of their ego and avoid complete identification with it. In instances where the ego is excessively dominant, an individual overreacts to external events and the behaviors of others. However, when one develops the capacity to center oneself, they become liberated mentally and emotionally. When the ego is appropriately managed, an individual can cultivate a more objective perspective, not only concerning the external world but also regarding their own internal landscape. As Jung emphasized in the process of individuation, the conscious recognition and acceptance of one's shadow aspects are paramount. Those who can confront their weaknesses, fears, and repressed psychological elements become more robust and resilient to external pressures. At this stage, an individual can offer considered and balanced responses to external events, rather than merely reacting automatically. With the ego under conscious regulation, an individual progresses to a deeper stratum of awareness, viewing life's events not as battlegrounds but as integral components of their developmental journey. Thus, regardless of the severity of external factors, the individual succeeds in preserving internal tranquility. Emotions represent one of the internal forces that most profoundly challenge and often control human consciousness. According to Carl Jung, emotions are not simply ephemeral reactions, they are significant messages originating from the subconscious realm, directly linked to an individual's shadow aspects. If an individual becomes engrossed in their emotions without understanding their underlying meaning, their life will be dictated by unconscious reactions, and they will remain perpetually susceptible to external influences. However, mastering emotions does not imply their suppression or outright disregard. On the contrary, it signifies a conscious recognition of their presence and a deliberate cultivation of the ability to manage them constructively. In Jungian psychology, unresolved unconscious conflicts and repressed emotions, if not elevated to the conscious level, tend to manifest in the external world as anger, frustration, fear, and anxiety. When an individual recognizes that the emotions causing them the greatest distress are, in fact, originating from their own internal landscape, they begin to assert greater control over their reactions to external events. Many individuals, when experiencing negative emotions, instinctively seek their source in the external world. When angry, they expect the person or event that triggered their anger to change. When disappointed, they frequently blame external circumstances. However, Jung maintained that our emotions are profound reflections of our internal, rather than external, world. If an individual fails to inquire why they repeatedly experience the same emotions in response to certain events, the same cyclical patterns will persist throughout their life. For instance, an individual constantly fearing rejection may harbor a subconscious sense of unworthiness. If they do not comprehend the source of this feeling, they will perceive every instance of rejection encountered in life as a personal failure, unable to escape this emotional spiral. Conversely, an individual who approaches emotions with conscious awareness understands that each emotion endeavors to communicate something vital, and instead of suppressing it, they can transform its meaning. The conscious management of emotions does not entail minimizing their impact on us. Rather, it necessitates the capacity to experience them mindfully and utilize them as crucial internal navigational indicators. The Jungian process of individuation is facilitated by the harmonization of conscious and unconscious elements, and emotions serve as one of the most vital instruments in this process. If an individual fails to confront their fears, anger, or anxiety with conscious awareness, these emotions will uncontrollably erupt at unexpected junctures. Therefore, to manage emotions in a healthy manner, it is imperative to comprehend their internal significance rather than merely suppress them. One of the most efficacious methods for achieving this is to meticulously analyze emotional triggers and cultivate a heightened state of self-awareness to reach the core of these emotions. As an individual develops their emotional intelligence, they become more deliberate in their responses to the external world. When experiencing anger, they can question the true origin of their rage and consciously bring it under control, preventing it from overwhelming them. For example, instead of immediately adopting a defensive posture when criticized, an individual can objectively assess whether the criticism genuinely represents a threat. Jung's doctrine regarding the balance between conscious and unconscious allows an individual to confront their own emotions and consciously direct them. Thus, an individual can cease to be a mere slave to their emotional reactions and achieve a level of wisdom that enables them to consciously guide their affective states. An individual who masterfully manages their emotions not only preserves internal serenity but also learns to navigate life's events with greater rationality and balance. Inner strength signifies an individual's capacity to maintain their spiritual equilibrium without succumbing to external events and adversities. According to Carl Jung, an individual's true strength is measured not by their reactive responses to external influences, but by the profound equilibrium and self-awareness they cultivate within their internal world. Most people erroneously equate power with control, dominance, or the ability to manipulate external circumstances to their advantage. However, authentic strength is the profound ability to maintain connection with one's intrinsic essence and inner core, irrespective of fluctuating external conditions. As Jung emphasized within the psychological process of individuation, for an individual to attain inner strength, they must courageously confront their unconscious aspects and integrate them by bringing them into conscious awareness. Inner strength is not merely a superficial resistance to hardship. Rather, it emerges when an individual develops a profound existential understanding of their own being. Maintaining focus implies that an individual can sustain internal awareness and a conscious stance, thereby avoiding excessive reactivity to external events. In daily life, individuals encounter innumerable challenges, and if they operate unconsciously, their lives will be perpetually dictated by external factors. Jung posited that an unconsciously acting individual may believe they are in control of their life, but in reality, they have become captives of unconscious behavioral patterns and societal conditioning. However, an individual who maintains conscious focus can perceive these challenges as pivotal points for maintaining their psychological equilibrium. This does not imply becoming emotionally numb or impervious to the external world. Instead, it signifies evaluating events from a broader perspective and consciously directing one's reactions and decisions. One of the greatest adversaries to inner strength is the incessant human quest for external validation. If an individual's sense of self-worth is contingent upon the approval of others, they inevitably forfeit their inner strength and become prone to psychological disequilibrium as external conditions fluctuate. Jung underscored that for an individual to genuinely comprehend themselves, they must become independent of external mechanisms of affirmation. An individual who is centered within themselves is more resilient to the ephemeral and mutable influences of the external world, deriving their freedom and inner awareness from intrinsic sources rather than external factors. An individual's true strength resides not in the self-confidence experienced when circumstances are favorable, but in the profound capacity to maintain internal tranquility and fortitude even during profoundly challenging times. To remain centered, an individual must consciously observe their thoughts and feelings and cultivate a continuous practice of mindfulness. This is achieved through fortifying one's mental awareness, transcending emotional volatility, and discerning the subtle influences of the unconscious. According to Carl Jung, the deeper an individual comprehends themselves, the more effectively they can resist external influences. An individual who understands the transient nature of external events ceases to perceive life as a perpetual struggle and begins to view their existence within a deeper, more profound context. They discover their inner strength, persist on their unique path despite life's uncertainties, and become attuned to their inner voice. At this juncture, the individual transcends merely reacting to external conditions and evolves into the authentic master of their own life. Humans, by their very nature, are social beings, engaging in continuous interactions with others. However, at times, such interactions can inadvertently compromise an individual's inner peace. According to Carl Jung, diminishing the influence of others does not imply severing social ties or becoming emotionally insensitive. Rather, it signifies strengthening one's inner world to maintain an independent stance relative to external pressures. The majority of individuals are unconsciously swayed by the thoughts, judgments, and expectations of those around them. This pervasive need for external approval can alienate an individual from their true self and compel them to suppress their authentic nature, donning various social masks or personas. However, when an individual refuses to permit the opinions of others to define their identity, they embark on a journey toward genuine liberation. The inaugural step in mitigating the influence of others is the conscious evaluation of one's own thoughts, feelings, and convictions. According to Jung's theory of the archetypal shadow, individuals often project onto the external world those aspects of themselves they suppress. For example, an individual perpetually troubled by the criticism of others may, in reality, be confronting an internalized insecurity they refuse to acknowledge. If an individual constantly attempts to construct defenses against external reactions without resolving their internal conflicts, they will paradoxically become more dependent on others rather than achieving liberation from their influence. However, when an individual begins to understand their internal world, they realize that what others say or do does not inherently pertain to their self-worth. Reducing the influence of other people is not merely about cultivating self-confidence. It also encompasses the crucial ability to establish healthy emotional boundaries. Jung asserted that an individual's capacity to define their own psychological space is a foundational element of mental well-being. If an individual consistently shoulders the emotional burdens of others and internalizes their problems as their own, they will eventually experience profound emotional depletion. An individual adept at establishing healthy boundaries can both empathize with others and safeguard themselves from detrimental emotional impacts. This enables them to make conscious choices regarding which emotions to internalize and which to respectfully detach from. Many individuals tend to act in accordance with external expectations and societal norms, a tendency that often leads to alienation from their true self and dependence on external mechanisms of approval. An individual who listens to their inner voice filters the opinions of others through a conscious lens, rather than outright rejecting them. This approach offers vital flexibility when necessary, without blindly adhering to external dictates. One of the most crucial ways to diminish external influence is through radical self-acceptance. According to Jung, an individual's complete acceptance of their own identity constitutes the most formidable defense against external pressures. If an individual achieves internal coherence, they cease to be a puppet of the external world and become the authentic master of their own life. True freedom does not imply a complete renunciation of external influences, but rather the steadfast refusal to allow them to disrupt one's internal equilibrium. The creation of one's own reality signifies the conscious decision to live a life of profound meaning and purpose, in alignment with one's inner self, rather than allowing external factors to dictate one's trajectory. According to Carl Jung, when an individual begins to comprehend and embrace their authentic self, they gain sovereignty over their life. Reality, in essence, is constructed within the individual's mental framework. The external world merely serves as a reflection of one's internal perceptions and thoughts. Therefore, initiating the creation of one's own reality is the inaugural step toward constructing a life congruent with one's inner being, independent of external conditions. The foundation for this personal reality construction lies in the individual's cultivation of a comprehensive awareness of their internal world, encompassing the exploration of internal conflicts and latent potentials. People frequently operate based on thoughts imposed by their external environment, which often leads them to perceive reality through the lens of societal norms or their immediate surroundings. However, a conscious individual can transcend this external conditioning, delve into their inner world, and construct a reality unique to them, rather than focusing predominantly on external validation. This necessitates the establishment of one's own truths, values, and meanings, independently derived from societal norms, the expectations of others, or past ruminations. Reality is not solely the outcome of material conditions, it is also a profound expression of an individual's spiritual world. When an individual begins to discover their intrinsic essence, they are empowered to manifest an external life that reflects this essence. Another critical component in creating one's own reality is the discovery of one's life purpose and meaning. Jung posited that the quest for meaning provides an individual with profound internal direction and depth. If an individual merely exists or strives to conform to societal expectations, they become estranged from their deeper self. To realize one's internal potential to its highest degree, an individual must possess a clear purpose. This purpose cannot be merely social achievements or the pursuit of external approval. Authentic purpose is forged from a visionary framework that resonates with one's true self. An individual aspiring to create their reality must first engage in profound introspection into their spiritual nature and comprehend its intrinsic directives. Jungian thought suggests that a harmonious alignment between the inner self and external aspirations plays a decisive role in the actualization of one's reality. The creation of one's own reality also necessitates the acceptance of past traumas and shadow aspects. According to Jung, every individual harbors repressed emotions and thoughts within their unconscious. These dark aspects, which he termed the shadow, can foster negative attitudes towards both oneself and others. For genuine internal transformation, it is critically important to acknowledge and confront these shadow aspects. Past mistakes, losses, disappointments, or suppressed emotions must be embraced as integral components of one's personality. However, this acceptance does not imply condoning or perpetuating them. Jung argued that the acceptance of shadow aspects is a crucial step towards psychological integration and the authentic creation of one's reality. The creation of one's own reality is not contingent upon external approval or avoidance of judgment, but rather represents a path aligned with one's deepest inner truth. This process is not merely an individual endeavor but also a significant step toward contributing meaningfully to society. As an individual actualizes their unique potential, they simultaneously acquire the capacity to positively transform the world around them. Creating one's own reality is a journey of discovering one's authentic self, achieving internal equilibrium, confronting the past, and unveiling life's profound meaning. Jung believed that the true self can only manifest through these deep and conscious processes. By safeguarding oneself from the impositions of the external world, an individual cultivates inner strength and begins to consciously shape their reality. This process imbues one's existence with profound meaning. The pursuit of one's internal reality and its conscious manifestation is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is equally vital to understand how to integrate these insights and understandings into daily life. According to Carl Jung, the internal transformation of an individual should not remain at a theoretical level but must be concretely actualized in real-world contexts. While internal development fosters profound awareness, the manner in which this awareness is reflected in our daily lives, relationships, work, and interactions with society ensures that the transformation is both enduring and meaningful. One of the most crucial aspects Jung emphasized in the process of individuation is that internal potential finds its expression in the external world, and the individual consciously integrates this potential into their life. Practical application is an essential step for an individual to gain a deeper comprehension of themselves and their internal world. An individual who has discovered their own truth does not merely observe the world as a passive spectator. They participate effectively and actively within it. The authentic stage of actualization occurs when an individual sheds social masks and lives a life congruent with their intrinsic truths, exhibiting genuine freedom not only toward themselves but also toward their environment. An individual who remains steadfast to their own truths extends this freedom to others, for true freedom inherently necessitates respect for the autonomy of others. According to Jung, an individual who undergoes internal transformation becomes more empathetic, open, and compassionate toward others in the external world. The cultivation of internal equilibrium also generates a ripple effect of peace in the external environment. Another vital aspect of practical application is the capacity to make decisions with conscious deliberation and judicious balance. Jung highlighted the significance of making choices that genuinely serve and resonate with the individual once they have uncovered their inner potential. According to Carl Jung, true individuation involves the resolution of internal conflicts, the acceptance of one's shadow aspects, and the courageous selection of one's unique path, independent of pervasive social norms. Carl Jung posited that an individual achieves authentic freedom only when they embrace their true self in its entirety and live according to their inherent identity, irrespective of external judgments. This freedom benefits not only the individual but also the broader community. An individual who has cultivated inner strength and equilibrium can transmit this strength to those around them, inspiring others to advance on their own unique journeys. Actualization implies an individual's fulfillment of their social responsibilities while simultaneously living in accordance with their internal truths. Achieving this delicate balance signifies not only accepting personal accountability for one's life but also inspiring others and engaging them in this transformative process. The process of internal transformation and the creation of one's own reality is not merely an individual revelation but also a deliberate endeavor to integrate this discovery into societal life. According to Carl Jung's teachings, only when an individual discovers their internal strength can they imbue their life with profound meaning by reflecting this strength into their surroundings and fully engaging in the process of true individuation. This application in real life necessitates patience, profound self-awareness, and unwavering courage. An individual must discern their unique path and boldly pursue it, independent of the pervasive influences of the external world.